Well, Boomer, tell me about the good old days.
But we're going to talk about kind of a scary subject matter.
Mm.
We're going to talk about the Amityville Horror.
Ah, jeez. So, so those of you that weren't there last night on Netter's Network, and if you weren't there, why weren't you there? We missed you. But over on Netter's Network, we did a rewatch last night of the original Amityville Horror with the lovely Margot Kidder and that Harry Brolin guy. And the story that I often tell, and if you guys follow me, and if you're not following me, why aren't you following me? But you should. I think you should. I think I put out good content. I often say that this was a scary movie when I was a kid. It really bothered me. And when Nanette and I first got married, I said, I want you to watch this movie with me. It's scary. I know you don't like scary movies, but I want you to watch this with me. It'll kind of give you some insight into my psyche, things that scare me, and so forth, right? And I'll be right here with you. Don't worry. We were halfway through the movie, and she's like, have we gotten to the scary part yet? And I'm like, honest, this was a scary movie when I was a kid. You know, I was like 8, 9 years old. This scared the crap out of me. But as an adult, especially as a homeowner, the only thing scary about it is buying a money pit and being, over your head in a mortgage, That's what that movie's about.
Well, Rosefire said, well, I don't like horror. You guys have found this topic, and I'll be tuning for the next one. Rosefire, I have to say, this is a true story. This isn't just horror. This really happened. This isn't some spooky story.
The people actually existed. People with those names actually existed.
Okay.
DeFeo and so forth. They all actually existed. That's true.
I think you're a little bit older than me, right? Were you around when this was happening live, and you heard stories on the news about it?
Well, probably, but it didn't mean much to me because, this was New York news, right? This wasn't Chicago news for me, so I wasn't paying much attention to it. I kind of came to this story the same way most everyone did, where, they put out this book and it's based on a true story about, this haunted house and the murders that happened there and da-da-da-da. And I read the book and it scared the crap out of me. Now, how did little 8-year-old Troy get his hands on this book? Well, Mom bought the book and she read it. So I grabbed it and I read it and holy crap, and growing up, I went to a Catholic grade school, Catholic upbringing. So this kind of stuff really, this could totally happen, right? And then they do the movie, and I'm, but
because you're seeing it all for real, like when the little girl says, "You scared Jody. She went out the window. Oh, let me go out and look." And Margaret goes, "Oh," and then you see the two little red eyes in the window,
right?
Like, ah!
and you see this from the point of view of a kid, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, the father's so mean and everything," and da da da. But then you see it as an adult, and you're like, "That little kid's a little brat, no wonder he's getting pissed off." And the money goes missing, and the walls are dripping sewage, and everyone's getting sick from the smell, and it's attracting flies, and they got all these and the drafty damn house and the stress. And yeah, I totally understand him getting upset. I would be outside chopping wood trying to let off some steam myself.
They threw
for crying out loud.
This movie, we were watching it last night. It'd been a while. I forgot it goes on for 2 hours. That's too long.
The only thing that I thought watching the movie that I was like, okay, come on, man, get your head in the game. You're married to someone that looks like Margot Kidder, who's in her undies, doing stretches and ballet and, topless and everything. Come on, you got it good. All this other stuff, who cares, right? But then you start to think, well, wait a minute. This is a dramatization of real people, and the real people didn't really look like this. And okay, never mind.
No, it's funny because I saw the remake. I was actually watching a little bit of the remake for the stream, and they have Ryan Reynolds and Melissa George, and I'm like, oh, Ryan Reynolds, he's a good looking man, right? And he had that's when he had the abs when he was younger, and
yeah,
maybe he still has them, I don't know. But and then he was married, and he's married to Melissa George, who. I don't know. She's an English actress, but she's nice.
Is she attractive?
Okay? Yes.
I saw the movie and I don't frickin' remember her.
I knew her from various television shows. She was on a season of Alias, actually. and very good looking woman, and it's you look at the couple in real life and they don't really look like that. You know?
Oh, absolutely.
We had James Brolin, the original one. Everyone's overacting in that movie. Rod Steiger just screaming at the other priest, saying, "I have to help the family," and it's like, and he's yelling at God and all this other stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, come on, it's so bad." It's just, and it's what else is going on? You have the psychic woman, and then she's like, cover it up, and like her voice gets all distorted. But when you're a kid, you're seeing this stuff, and of course you see, being sensationalistic. This is based on a true story. You're like, what?
The book, right on the spine, it says, I mean, if you classify this by the Dewey Decimal System,
Yep.
It has to go in nonfiction because it's classified as nonfiction. And that's very misleading because, as you yourself pointed out, this family reported on this, but that's the only evidence that we have that this happened. This is their story based on what they said, and we're just taking them at their word. The other element of it is then it becomes a Hollywood film, and the director and the writer and everything, they take their creative license too. So we're watching this movie saying it's based on a true story, but it's a fictionalized version of a story that may be fiction to begin with, for all we know. There's all these layers of fiction put onto, like what I said, if you strip away all of that, what you probably have is a couple that bought a house that's got a sewage problem. The house is drafty. They can't afford to get the place fixed. Then her brother loses $1,000 before, his wedding. He misplaces it somewhere. They have money problems. They end up getting divorced because of their all these issues that they're having. Let's blame it on evil spirits,
Oh, Mr. Messa, so it's like calling 300 a historical movie. Troy would probably argue that's more realistic than the Amityville Horror.
Now, let me preface this with, any realistic person knows that the stories that we know of the Battle of Thermopylae are legendary. We know that they can't be taken at their word. However, as far as history goes, that is the closest you can get to, you kind of got to take the word of those that wrote the history. I mean, we can assume that it was, maybe embellished a little bit, but when you get right down to the comic you put aside the extravagance of the tone and the look of the film and the story, the basic points of the story are right out of Herodotus.
Right.
So, I mean, I mean, if this Amityville Horror was point for point what was in the book, well, you can't blame the director. Right.
Well, actually, this isn't funny. There actually was a murder that happened in the house before the family moved in.
That is absolutely true.
And I was watching, I'll say this, I kind of miss some of the old days of DVD when the studios would actually put out some neat features on their regular releases. And they had a feature where they were talking about the actual DeFeo family murders on it, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing was actually very curious, okay? They say that all the family members were all face down in the same position before they were shot, okay? And
which isn't how they depicted it in the film. Just pointing that out.
Yeah, well, okay, well, they got that wrong then. Anyway, but the point is that they said they were all still basically. So you think if one person got shot, the other would at least get up and move around or figure what's that, but that didn't happen here. Yeah. So I don't know. There's no silencer used on the gun, so I don't know. But that is a bit odd. I'll say that.
There's a lot of details that I think are probably missed. You'd really have to dig into it. The other thing is, did you watch that video that I gave you the link for?
I did. The Red Room. A
little different than it was depicted in the film.
Okay, so what was she saying? She was the current resident, right? Or we used to live, and we just played in here, and there's nothing wrong with it. And I'm gonna say, I would expect maybe someone who belonged to a certain kind of forbidden sect to maybe say that and lie to the audience like that.
Oh, you got to be careful saying stuff like that, man.
Kidding.
Because
I'm just fooling.
Somebody
I'm
could
just fooling.
But seriously, I mean, it's literally just a little room under the stairs, and there's nothing. I mean, I honestly thought, based on the movie, there's that scene where he's coming down the stairs, he falls through the stairs, and he ends up in this puddle of sewage, right? Well, in reality, that's not there. That did not happen. That is entirely a fabrication for the film. And my thought was, oh, that's kind of weird, but I could believe it that the septic tank was under the stairs. Okay. But no, like, that was not the case at all.
It's the black blood of the earth, and he's falling into it, and he's getting all covered up.
For F's sake.
Okay.
Dude, I am not drunk enough for that kind of crap.
Okay. Can we talk a little bit about the sequel? Because there was a sequel made to the movie that was actually a prequel, right? We talked a little bit about that, but we talked.
Dude, you probably don't want me talking about that sequel. You really,
that's
in my condition, with Nanette listening, I probably should not be talking about this sequel.
Okay, well, let's just say there's a scene.
I will say this. This is what I will say.
Get a little too close, okay?
Yes, and the fact is, talk about taking license. The age difference between those two characters, in reality, as opposed to that film, very, very different. Does not work. It totally doesn't work. But yeah, I will say, young pubescent Troy enjoyed that movie. Let's just say.
Oh no, let's not go there. Anyway, movie. Maybe okay.
I liked when R-rated movies were R-rated movies for more than just the gore.
Well, I want to say something. We keep saying R-rated. The original Amityville Horror, I would catch it on Saturday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, maybe they had to cut out a couple scenes. Maybe the dream sequence of Margot Kidder imagines James Brolin cutting into her
the
head
axe into her head. Yeah,
I
and the scene of her doing
that.
her stretches was probably cut
out. That's
out.
probably not in the television version. Maybe they. Of course, the movie was 2 hours. So you could probably cut a lot out of that movie and you wouldn't know it was gone. But anyway.
Wait, Auditor Dread is asking if I am drunk enough to talk about Highlander the Quickening. I don't have to be drunk enough to rant a little bit about Highlander the Quickening. Maybe I'll make that a Friday stream sometime. I will not be doing a rewatch of it, but I'd be happy to rant about it.
We should do a you know what I'm going to do next time he shows up from a Latino slant a little tipsy. I'll say next week we're doing Highlander the Quickening rewatch,
and I won't know the difference. That's how he got me to watch Roadhouse. Oh, you son of a gun!